if you are a Christian in 2026, if you are not actively trying to get and stay fit, you are a fool.
Is being a fat husband a sin? Well, howdy and welcome to the Build to Last podcast. Joined today by a very impressive dude that's leading a lot of dudes. This is Hunter Sprague. He is founder and leader of Monolith Movement. Very, very cool. Would love for you to share a little bit about your history, how you came to the Lord. You went from ministry to this awesome, it's really another ministry.
Yes.
And would love to hear how you met your wife, just kind of your backdrop, maybe like 5 to 8 minutes, just hear about your life.
Let's do it. Yeah. So I grew up definitely in a Christian home, a lot of ministry family. Grew up in Texas, been in Texas my entire life. And so when I was thinking about this, my first memory was I was at my grandfather's farm in Ravenna, Texas, was kind of middle of nowhere, sitting on a hay bale looking at the sunset. And my aunt comes up. She was a missionary for like 35 years and she was on furlough. She comes up, she's like, "Hunter, what are you doing?" And I was maybe like 4, 5 years old. And I said, "I'm just sitting here enjoying God." And that's like my core memory, dude. Like that's kind of been my thing of that's really what I want. And that drove most of my life. Again, grew up in the church, great parents, great family, all that kind of stuff. And then it's kind of crazy. A few years after that, I was 8. I had a go-kart wreck. I was in South Padre Island in Texas and almost lost this left arm. So you can kind of see
It's crazy. I saw the scar.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
It's pretty wild. So it was almost torn off my body. It's like compound fracture, total nerve damage, hanging on by a thread, dude. So we go to the hospital basically in Mexico. You know what I mean? You're down. Yeah. And the first doctor was like, "We're going to have to amputate. There's no way we can save this." And so pretty wild. So, that kind of, it changes some things in you, when you're that young. All of a sudden it was like, man, I can't be a normal kid. Right. I had to go through there's a lot of surgery, a lot of rehab. I had to relearn how to use my hand and, bend my elbow, all that kind of stuff. But definitely one of those like kind of pillar shifting
For sure
moments, at a very young age. But by God's grace, just still got to grow up and, I've been a drummer my entire life. So I got back on the drums, played soccer my entire life, got back to that. Huge bow hunter. So I got back to that. So I kind of got back to everything that I had loved growing up. But yeah, so it's kind of did all of that. After high school, I went on tour with a Christian metal band for like a year. And so I did that whole thing, life on the road. It's
that you met a wife somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was a little bit after that. So then, ended up leaving that, moving down to Austin, Texas, started another band. That's how I eventually met my wife. We got married in 2014. So we celebrated 12 years.
Okay.
On May 4th.
Congrats.
Yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang.
So pretty crazy. We have 4 kids. They're 8, 5, 3, and 5 months tomorrow.
Dang. Hands full.
So hands are full. I spent most of my adult years in full-time ministry. So I was doing all sorts of stuff. It was photography, design, filmmaking, art direction, creative direction, doing worship, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually, I think it was going through COVID stuff. I was like, man, men are not doing very well, right? And it wasn't so much some guys are kind of getting sick. It was just, people were losing their minds, right?
For sure.
Being blown around, like didn't know what to think, didn't know who to be anymore. And it was really sad because there's a lot of guys that I had always looked up to as like, these are like the pillars, those are the guys they're really steady, they're really stable. And all of a sudden they're just gone mentally. Right. And so it really forced me to, okay, what is this issue? Right. Because, it seems as if, theology, head knowledge, doctrine, it kind of isn't enough right now. Right. These guys have all of that information, but they're still going through all of this. We're
mentally and physically and spiritually unhealthy.
Yes. And that's always the right thing. And that was the thing. That was the common thread that I found. I mean, they've got the MDiv, they've, written the books, they've spoken at the conferences, all that kind of stuff. But there was still just this sense of unease and just very frantic. There's a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. You're seeing all these guys burnout, kind of living their life for just numbing out and escaping, And so for me, I was like, man, I've been kind of in the fitness game for a while, and maybe I can help figure this out in some way. So I just got to studying as much as I could, trying to figure that kind of stuff out. And I kind of became the guy at our church. We had like 200 staff people, and I was just kind of guy, so when somebody wanted some help with, fitness, whatever, being healthier, they would come to me, and I'd have a, little coffee with them. And I was like, dude, I love this. This is so fun. Like, this gets me more fired up than anything. And I have like a note in my phone from years ago, like, I need to pay attention to this, because this is the thing that fires me up more than anything. So,
do you think very many men find that for themselves? The thing that fires them up?
No, not at all. Why? Sadly. Oh, man, that is a good question.
I mean, we're just going through, I feel like up till college, everything's decided for you. You're like just going through everyone else's plan for your life.
Yeah.
And then out of college, you're like waiting for someone else's plan to kick in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got bills to pay. I gotta do this. Oh crap, I got married. Oh crap, I got kids. Oh, I gotta pay for diapers. Like,
yes,
it
exactly.
feels like you can drift through so many years.
100%.
You're like, oh crap, I didn't build anything. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that purposeless life is not what you're built for.
No, not at all. Well, it makes sense in the way of like, it's certainly very safe, it's very predictable. And I think that's what gets a lot of guys, because I mean, I was like, you've built stuff, you've kind of gone out. It's certainly very scary. There's a lot of risk involved, but, that is this kind of itch I think we have as men. And it's almost like this fire that has to be stoked.
Men thrive taking risks. But we don't do it.
We don't do it. Yeah.
Life is very safe.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, and so a lot of, what I talk about is, man, there are some deeper, chemical and hormonal, realities underneath that, right? It's not just, hey, what I know up here, but man, how am I coming into that situation where I would either take a risk or play it safe? Like, what is my biology doing right here? Because that is destiny in a lot of ways, right? And I think, so that's something that, I'm really passionate about, the church just kind of discovering and getting back to say, hey, there is a created order, and a lot of this is for that purpose of thriving, of flourishing. How do we come into the situation on the front foot, from the best place possible, and we're not, I think a lot of guys are just unraveling, and a lot of that is by their own making, right? So then they come to this and they think, well, I want to be the risk taker, I want to be this or that, and it's like, well, but you haven't necessarily built a reality where that can happen all the time. Yeah. Right. Because every situation, you're scared, you're timid. There's no expectation. I think that's a lot of it, right? It's like, there's not this big hope of what God can do. It's kind of shrunk down to, man, well, what can I make happen kind of with my hands? Yeah. Right. So theology plays into that. What kind of background do you come from? Again, how healthy are you? What is your environment? What's the structure you built in your life? Yep. And that's going to kind of determine how risk averse or risk tolerant you are, for sure.
I think I want to go to the leaders portion of that. You talked about the church, the pastors. We follow pastors that really have never built anything. They're physically unhealthy, they're financially unhealthy. Some of them spiritually unhealthy. It's not really part of the conversation for this, but what have we got wrong with the church and where it's at? Where, man, the Baptist pastor's 100 pounds overweight and his wife doesn't like him, but that's the guy leading the men. Like, what does the church need to return to, or pastors? What should pastors be aspiring to? Because you're pastoring guys. That's what you're practically doing, and they're responding well because, well, you're masculine. You've got cute wife, cute kids. You're building a life, and that's kind of what guys have always latched on with me is, okay, I bought a house. I've got a wife that loves me. I've got, like, I'm having fun. I'm taking risk, and guys want that. They want to follow that.
100%.
What should these pastors do, or should we find new pastors? Like,
yeah.
When you look at the church,
yeah,
where should we head?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I think, in one way we've done obviously a very good job with teaching theology, teaching doctrine, teaching church growth, and staffing, and all these kinds of things. Great. That's awesome, right? But then these guys are not necessarily set up for the realities of what ministry will look like, right? And constantly being on, carrying the emotional weight of everybody around them. Everybody's looking to you for answers. Half your email inbox is just, people that are pissed about the carpet or something like that, and so there's got to be, again, I think a lot of people are operating from like a 90s or 2000s operating system, right? They're not living in 2026, and realizing this is not the world that our dads grew up in, right? These things aren't just going to randomly happen. No. There has to be a high degree of stewardship, of self-control to get myself in that position so that I can thrive, and therefore so that others can thrive as well, right? That all is going to come back to the leader, right? Because again, everybody's looking to you. You are showing them what is normal, what is right, what is acceptable, and the vast majority of the time, it's just not up to par, right? Yeah. And I think to me, that's some of the reason so many people are deconstructing, right? Because they look at the church and they're like, well, this didn't really seem to do anything in you, right?
Right.
This didn't really
see the fruit of it.
No, where is the fruit? That's the inherent question, right? Where is the fruit? If this was so good, why are you not different? Why are you still yelling at your kids? Why does your sex life sucks? You're broke. Yep. You're out of shape. All of this kind of stuff.
Why would I follow you?
Why would I follow you? Yeah. Right. And it's not to say that those things are ultimate, right? But they are these examples of, man, this guy has operated from self-control. He's operated from wisdom. And that is what happens. Like, that is pretty obvious to see. And so I think a lot of it is just for the pastor to say, hey, a part of my job is to be aspiration, right? And is to know the culture that I exist in, know who I'm talking to. This is Paul's, be all things for all people. Like, these guys that you and I talked to grew up listening to Rogan and Goggins and guys like Nick Bear and, these excellent men doing excellent things. And they walk into the church and they see, a 100-pound, overweight kind of guy, and that is not aspirational, right? Again, not ultimate, but it is saying, okay, there's something about those guys that fires me up, and I look at you and you just seem nice, you seem safe, and I don't know if I can follow you into battle,
Well, I mean, like the idea of shepherd, pastors are shepherds, and there's a hyper feminization of that, where it's like this little guy holding a lamb and he's so gentle and he should be in the nursery. A shepherd in the Bible killed bears and lions and Goliath. Like, you actually protected the flock. It was a metaphor for something that was very manly, like a cowboy.
Yes. Yeah.
A pastor should be far more like a cowboy than a nursery worker.
Yes.
But most pastors couldn't win in the fight in Cracker Barrel. And so it's like, why would I follow these men? And I think that's all these young men are showing up to the church and being met with, like, there's no fruit in this guy's life. Why would I follow him? Yeah. It's like Charlie Kirk, I think, did such an incredible job bringing people to Jesus through the example of his life of, I've got a happy wife, happy kids. I'm selling something that is, it's like, it is the thing to follow. It is have kids, get married, follow Jesus, build something that matters. Guys could follow that. And he wasn't like hyper masculine or anything. He wasn't like ripped or stacked or whatever, but he was building something. He had vision. He was worth following. But most pastors aren't worth following. And I might be hyper judgmental on it because I'm a pastor, and I'm like, these young men are looking for guys that they can draft off of.
They're ready, right?
They're so ready.
They're like champing at the bit to make some things happen, right? Sadly, I mean, probably half of them went to church after the Sunday that Charlie was shot, and nothing was said. Or if it was said, well, but he also was a little bit problematic, right?
Yeah.
So again,
he's an instigator,
right? So they're operating out of this, this headspace that's completely done. Like, we're not there anymore. They don't really know what's coming, and those young men are the future of the church, right? That is who is going to take up the mantle and move forward. That's the future, right? And so, to me, wisdom would say, okay, what do these guys need then? Yep. Right? How do I get them? How do I build this sense of trust, this sense of curiosity? How do I get their buy-in? Right? So obviously, it's not going to be from, hey, I'm so deep in theology alone, right? That is one thing. That is one piece of the pie, right? Because they want to look to you and say, man, show me how to live. Like, can I imitate you as you imitate Christ, right? Or do I just say, well, he's a nice guy that knows the Bible, but outside of that, he's a wreck? No, that's not somebody that I would want to be.
Most of Jesus' teachings weren't deep theological concepts. They were parables that the average guy would understand.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't talk in ways that the average guy wouldn't understand. That's where all these churches go so deep on theology right away. And it's like, well, you lost most of the men because that's a truck driver that just wants to have a relationship with Jesus and love his wife well.
Yes, exactly.
Most of our needs are not understanding deep theological concepts. It's how do you love your wife well?
Yep.
How do you build a legacy? How do you have kids that follow Jesus?
Exactly.
And Jesus modeled that.
Yes.
He didn't model this overly academic Christianity. He modeled one that was very practical.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's what pastors need to return to.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of that was like, I think either there was kind of church growth, right? And it was very applicable. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is too shallow. So we got to go all the way to the other side and just beat people over the head with deep knowledge. And then, but then you have years of that and people don't know how to manage finances, for instance. They don't know how to live their life. They don't know how to have an orderly home because that's the practical stuff that apparently is bad, right? Because we're all about Jesus. Yeah, right? That's what everybody says. Yep. And so how narrowly or broadly are we applying that? You know, I think that's the big question for all of this. So, yeah.
Paul said to act like men, act like men. What does that mean? Like to the average dude or the average pastor, biblically, what does it mean to act like a man?
It's a complicated question. It's a complicated question for sure. I think to me, when I felt like the shift in my life would be like, man, okay, I'm there, right? I'm still growing, but I'm a man. I think it was the realization and the acceptance of it's all on me, you know, in the way of the responsibilities on me. Even if something is not my fault, it's still my problem, right? If there's an issue in my home, that's something I have to do, right? There's no more blame shifting. There's no more, oh, but you, oh, but they, oh, but whatever, right? And it's really, to me, I think that's at the core of it of, hey, I'm accepting all responsibility. That's the biggest thing I can get guys to do within their fitness, right? Is, dude, you're not the way you are because your wife cooks like this. You're not the way you are because you have 5 kids. You're not the way you are because your work schedule is this. It's like all of that is in your hands. You've been called to have dominion. You've been called to subdue the earth and be fruitful and multiply. You have a lot more agency than you realize, right? And I think the man says, okay, you know, if I have a new heart, if I am a new creation, if I've got the Holy Spirit of the living God inside him, if 1 Peter 2:9, for instance, is real and true of me today, then that's got to mean something. And that means that I can rise up, I can fix what needs to be fixed, I can go and handle what needs to be handled, and none of that stuff is just going to be shirked off to external, you know, sources or causes. But dude, this is something I can do, and I can figure this out, and I'm going to do it immediately, right?
So it's not as much of, for guys, it's not just beating themselves up over bad decisions. It's about having vision for their life.
Yes, because the beating yourself up, I mean, I don't know, it can be more, you know, some shame is good.
Some shame is good.
Like a shameless society is a terrible society.
Totally.
Some shame is good, but I think that's where a lot of guys get wrecked because it's everything, you know, when they're thinking about, okay, I need to, you know, be a better man, be a better husband, be a better father, get fit, build wealth, like whatever it is, right? It is that I have to pay penance for my bad decisions, right? This is me just kind of figuring it out, right? And just cleaning my, you know, pulling myself up, right? But yeah, so there's a route where you can, again, just beat yourself up over, you know, pay penance for your bad decision, whip your back, you know, all this kind of stuff. Or there's another way where the question becomes, man, what am I missing out on? Yeah. Right. And that is very forward thinking. That is very, you know, that is vision. You know, we think about having dominion. The way I would put it is like, man, you're tending this garden, right? Yeah. And so there is a part of it that is negative. Yeah, there are walls to be built. There's a gate. I'm killing snakes. Yep. I'm killing varmints. You know, there is some things that have to happen like that are negative, right? The other part of it is creator, right? What is the order of this? What is the beauty that I'm creating? And so I think if you can, you know, switch to that of, man, what am I missing out on? Yeah. How could my marriage be? How could I be, you know, with my kids or with my future kids, right? What could I do? Yeah, marketplace or in ministry. What could I do physically? 100%. What am I missing out on by not doing it? And that should be my drive, right? Because then I fall in love with the process of just going about that work, the long suffering of it, the just putting my head down, and because this is just what should be true of me, right? Rather than discipline for discipline's sake, right?
Yeah.
But this is just what should be true of me as a son of God, living in the kingdom of God, and this is what will bring about flourishing in my life.
100%. We were talking about this before. I feel like so many men's ministries, they just run a porn and pancakes ministry where it's like, hey guys, let's all hang out and talk about what last time we watched porn, and we just all feel better about ourselves because we know the other guy's doing it too.
Yes.
That's no vision. It's shame and it's feeling bad about ourselves, but kind of within some brotherhood of like, all right, we're all struggling, we're fine. But the best men's ministries cast vision for men and call them up into something more noble. And when you have a vision for your life, sin gets really small and gets a lot easier to overcome.
Yes.
Whereas if you're driving and you're staring at the ditch, you're going in that ditch at some point. If you're not looking ahead, you're not looking at vision, you will end up in the ditch. And it applies to fitness, pornography, all the major sins that men are dealing with day to day. It's a lack of vision.
100%. Yeah. Because you're just like, man, I haven't really come to the fact that the other side is that much better. Right. Because it's pretty cool, but you really have to understand, man, the other side of getting out of this sin, living a holy life, that is that much better. And then, it's just a thing of, it's not, yes, you're an idiot for looking at porn. Yeah. Right? But the other side of it is, it's just beneath you, brother. It is 100% beneath you. It is below you. And so you have to, yes, like you said, kind of be called up to this kingdom identity, like this kingdom royalty, right? And then you say, man, this is like, if I'm in medieval times, right, this is beneath my station.
100%.
This is below me. This is unbecoming of me. I've got better things to do. I've got better things to worry about. And if that stuff is there in the full, then yeah, that's a great way to move forward.
100%. Now let's get specific. So the church has preached against drunkenness, lust, immorality from every pulpit, but the pew is getting heavier than the bar stool, and we've been silent. But Scripture isn't. Is being a fat husband a sin?
Yes. There are a lot of caveats.
I know, and I'm gonna.
I don't want to though. I don't want to because you know who you are, right? You don't need my approval. You don't need Landon's approval. Like, who you are. Just that's not what we're talking about. But because Landon, like, what leads to being fat?
Gluttony. It's the lack of self-control.
A lack of self-control, right? It's not rocket science, right? Everybody knows this. Everybody, and even more so, it's 2026, dude. Yeah, this isn't naivety. We're not just kind of living in this bubble where it's, this is not a big deal. We know it's a big deal. Yeah, right? Through the grace of God, we know what this leads to, right? And I think a lot of guys are in a spot where they think, it's just how I look. No, it's not, dude. Like, that belly fat specifically will crash your testosterone, right? Which, what happens then, right? You have less and less drive for everything in your life. You have less drive to pursue your wife. Yep. Your libido is gone, right? Money is lost. Relationships are shattered, right? Heart issues go through the prostate issue, all that kind of stuff, right? I can go on and on about the specifics of it. But that's where we go, right? So then to say, man, I know this is bad for me. I know that this is unbecoming of me, but I don't care. Yeah. That is what scares me about it, right? Is just that I don't care. When it comes down to it, I'm not willing to do what it takes to get out of that. And that is against a heart that there's no expectation. The other side, I don't really care about the other side. I don't think it's going to be that much better than what I get to do right now. I don't have to have self-control. I can be a glutton. I can be idle. I can, have this apathy, this laziness, and whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? And you really have to twist yourself into knots to get there theologically, right? And you get into the heresy of Gnosticism very quickly, right? Which is just saying, hey, nothing physical matters, nothing material matters. Which John reminded me of this last time we spoke about it. It's like, so then, okay, either, go be an ascetic, and like live in the desert, because nothing material matters, or just go and trash this body because it doesn't matter. And who cares, right? Rather than, the biblical position that, like Paul says, I'm going to beat my body in submission so that it is my slave, right? All these kinds of things in 1 Peter 4:8, right? He's saying, hey, there is some value to physical training, but contextually, who you say that to? Ephesians, right? incredibly athletic people, incredibly aesthetic people, right? These people, they trained, they were hardcore, they were hard charging. It was not, Phoenix or DFW in 2026. That's a completely different context. So for him to say, hey, there is some value in this. Like, you guys are already elite, and there is some value in this. Let's just put it in its rightful place. You basically have to just ignore all of that to say, this is okay. This is not a big deal for me. I can do whatever I want. And ultimately, and we can get into this, but ultimately it's a lack of submission, I think, is what it is.
That's good. That's right.
Yeah, I was pulling stats before. 76% of pastors are overweight or obese.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because if you have a lack of self-control in one area of your life, it doesn't stop there. It goes into every area of your life. And it's one of the most dangerous things as a man if you don't have self-control in this area. Okay, and then what about in your lust? What about like if you can't tame that dragon on something as like food?
Yep.
Man, you are treading in dangerous territory. And
Absolutely.
I mean, America's never been fatter. The country has never been worse. Whereas you compare it to other cultures like Buddhists, 0.7% overweight.
Yep.
Americans, it's over 50-60% are obese.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think we'll be at 50% obese in like 4 years.
My gosh.
Obese. So not just overweight, but like,
I remember watching the kids movie Wall-E, and like on that ship, and it's just all the fat people, and it feels like where we're headed. It feels like we're at it.
Depending on how expensive Ozempic gets, or
Yes, I mean, Trump's helping that with all the fat people, for sure.
It's great. Praise God. I love it.
For
But
sure.
yeah.
Talk to me about that idea of submission.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I've coached a lot of guys at this point, through fitness and health. I've had, probably over 1,000 one-on-one calls, talked to tens of thousands of guys. I mean, I've met with guys that are, every denomination across the nation, everybody you can imagine. And, you start to see all of those same patterns, the same habits, the same story. And I'm convinced at this point, it's not really we can get into specifics and do's and don'ts and tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't really matter, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not there yet, it's because you have not submitted this area of your life, right? And so there's the Kuiper quote that says, there's not one square inch in this whole domain of existence to which Christ, who is sovereign over all. Yes. Yeah. I might can read it, but yeah, there's not one square inch over this entire domain of existence to which Christ, who is sovereign over all, does not cry mine, right? And so this is what's interesting, because for Christian men, they'll say, Lord, you can have my Bible study, you can have my quiet time, I'll give you my Sunday morning, I'll give you 10% of my money, I'll try not to get drunk, I'll try not to, watch porn, I'll try to be a good guy. Yeah. But when it comes to the way that I eat, the way that I treat my body, the way that I deal with my addictions, the way that I deal with my need for comfort and my desire for an escape, that is all mine. Yep. Right. That is mine. You cannot have it. It's off limits. It's out of bounds. It's mine. Right. Which is ironic, right? Because then the next breath, what was everybody saying? Christ is king, right? Jesus is Lord, and these big
Some things.
Over some things, but is it everything, right?
Yeah,
that's the big point. Is to say, hey, this has to be universal. It has to be all encompassing. Or yes, those cracks will begin to form. And yeah, dude, sure. It's at first, it's just the small things of I'm missing workouts, right? I'm watching too much TV. I'm scrolling too much. I'm eating, this way or that way. But then again, that becomes insatiable, right? And that doesn't scratch the itch. So you need something else and something else and something else, right? That's just that's the nature of that kind of struggle, right? And so that is really where you have to start, is you have to say, like, hey, Lord, this is your body. I did not create this, right? I did not give myself this. This is borrowed. Yeah. My job is to maximize it, to multiply it, to do whatever I can to give you glory through this, right? To offer this as a living sacrifice to you. And then again, what's cool is that it doesn't stop there, though, right? Because then you have this whole other piece of, and then, hey, because of that, you get to go and enjoy God, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what I love about this, because I think a fitness journey, it brings up a lot of things that nothing else would, right?
Yeah.
It brings a lot of things up to the surface that you can kind of skate around in men's ministries and in the church. But when you're, faced with, is my God my belly, right? And I need to eat this instead of this, or I need to do this instead of that. Like, that's a hard,
Yep.
crossroads to come through,
Yeah.
to come to. And it really, it brings that just kind of where are you at, right? It's kind of a litmus test that way. Where are you at?
Yeah. I mean, Paul literally says their end is destruction. Their God is their belly.
Yes. Yeah.
That's strong.
It is. Yep.
So fat husbands, you're in sin.
Mhm.
What should they do?
Yeah. I mean, first, like I said, submit.
Yeah.
1,000%, right? Submit it. And this can look different for everybody, but I believe for a lot of guys, it needs to be an act of repentance, right? It is hey, Lord, I have not stewarded what you've given to me, right? I have been the third guy in the parable of the talents that's just sitting on what you've given to me. I'm not growing it. I'm not taking care of it. I'm not taking risks. I'm just sitting on it. And I think that's good enough, right? So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for withholding that. You might have to go and apologize to your wife, right? I have not, I have not given you the best body that I possibly could have. And hey, you have ownership over this in Corinthians, right? You own my body. I own yours, right? There's this shared ownership, and I have not shown up in the way that I should have, right? And that's a problem.
Yep.
Right. I used to, I would guess, right? When you were dating, when you were, getting married, I mean, dressed to the nines on your wedding day. And then what happened, right? You gave up. And so if you're going to give up there, where again, same thing, where else are you going to give up? Why is that acceptable to you? So it's just this act of submission. And then it's to say, the next piece of it is, I have this cool, equation, right? And it's submission plus systems equals stewardship, right? So the second part of that is systems, right? Chesterton said that he was talking about Christianity, and he said, the more that I considered Christianity, I definitely found that it had a rule and an order, right?
Yep.
But the deeper I looked into it, the more I understood that rule and that order was only there so that the good things could run wild, right? I butchered that,
Yeah.
But you get the idea. So that the good things had room to run wild, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I need some order, right? I need some structure. And so it's gonna be, there's a lot of pieces to this, right? Especially in today's day and age. We're kind of out of this reality where, dude, you just kind of go jog and you'll be good in 5 weeks, the whole like Rocky, training, getting ready for the fight montage, that's not real, right? This could be years of your life, okay? Where you are fundamentally reorienting your life and your pursuits around this so that you can have another 30, 40, 50 years, good years where you're really present, right? And you really can have an impact worth it. That's a pretty good trait. There's going to be a lot of things that you'll have to say no to.
Yeah.
You can't be normal, right? And a lot of it, you're going to have to really own your schedule and your calendar and say, hey, again, operate out of that sense of dominion, out of that sense of, I'm stewarding this as my time I've been given, and I can just say yes to everything, or I can say, hey, this is a really important thing for me to get done right now. So, but it's the basics. It's diet, it's lifting, it's getting your cardio in, sleeping, taking care of your stress. Every guy should go get blood work done. So, man, where am I even coming into this from? Am I starting out on the right foot? But the biggest thing I think to start is just, man, it's got to be an act of submission, and then it's got to be, okay, I have to have some real structure here, right? If you're going to go and grow a real estate company, you don't just free ball it, dude.
Sure.
You don't just say, well, we'll just kind of see what happens, right? No, I mean, there are specific numbers, there are KPIs. If you're in sales, right? I mean, there are a lot of numbers you need to know, you need to stay on top of. And if your manager comes to you and asks you what those numbers are and you don't know, dog, you're getting fired.
Yep.
You're out of there.
Yep.
And so we can't, in the same way that we treat those things like that. Yes. Amen. Use that, right? Bring that over here and say, man, those same principles apply. There's a math to all of this. There's an order to all of it. If I can own the math, I'll win the game. Right.
Yep.
And it really is that simple.
That's good. That helps a lot, because I think it can feel very daunting for guys.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So more controversial question. Is it a sin for women?
wouldn't phone your wife in.
She would say yes. My wife would say
I know it's hard for a man
no.
to say it.
I feel like there's a bit more of a caveat for
I know.
just in the caveat being childbirth, obviously.
100%. There's seasons for sure.
That being the thing, right? My wife, we have a 5-month-old son, right? He's breastfeeding. My wife does not need to be diced to the gills right now, right? And so there is, but at the same time, there's no reason that she needs to have a ton of excess belly fat, because that is an issue that causes other issues, right? And so I think I would say if it is within your control for men or women, yes, 100%.
Yeah, I guess that's the point I was making, is there really isn't a difference between men and women on this one.
No.
This wasn't specifically written to men, it was written to Christians. It's but one of those we can say, and women will send it to their husbands, and this one will.
My wife, when she would straight up, she would say, wives should be hot for their husbands.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So how important is it that you look good for your wife and that your wife looks good for you? And it doesn't mean you look like the standard of beauty of Hollywood, but you steward what you guys have.
Yeah.
How important is that for your family, for your sex life, for your marriage being healthy?
Yeah. I mean, I think people want to create this kind of zero-sum game, right? Where it's like, oh, well, you're hot and attractive, but that means you're terrible at everything else.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's super dumb.
Yep.
I think that is an outlier. That's usually not how that goes. What usually happens is there's a conscious decision. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get into this game. We're going to, show up for each other really well.
Yep.
And everything thrives. Right.
Yep.
Because what is required out of that is a lot, right? It's you both have to be on top of the schedule. You're not doing all this dumb crap that you don't want to do, like most husbands and wives are doing with their kids, like every week. You're just like, are you kidding me? Like, we have to go do this again. What are we doing?
Are we doing ever in kids sports?
Right.
I believe in.
I think to an extent, but my bar is pretty low. I played travel ball. I did all the stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what did that give?
We both, my wife and I, were pretty against it. Mainly, we both have chronic injuries from it. Like I had my hip replaced, and she has a knee and a back issue that she'll have the rest of her life because of kids sports.
Yep.
But I mean, more than that, it's like, are kids in our life? Or are we in our kids' life? Who are we following?
Exactly.
And you're creating a really unrealistic sense of reality for your kids. We just drive you around. We're your Uber. We're like, whoa, you don't need to do that.
I'll put it. I talk to guys very regularly, right? Very overweight. They're sad. There's some depression. There's some anxiety. Libido's low. Energy's low. Brain fog is through the roof. Blood markers do not look good. But man, we're just so busy because our kids are in sports.
Yep.
Right. And we were talking about this earlier. That will become this generational cycle, this generational pattern where that's what your kids are seeing. Okay. Oh, it's okay for my parents to completely trash themselves so that I can play freaking T-ball.
Yeah. For the audience watching, generational curses are not a hyper spiritual thing. They're you going to a ball game and grabbing 2 burgers and a milkshake and gaining weight over 6 years, and your son watching that, and then suddenly your son is a glutton. Gravity is gluttony for your son.
Exactly.
Pornography, all those things. You put generational curses into your family.
You do. Yeah. Exactly.
Satan's not doing most of it. We are.
No, exactly. And that's the whole thing. I think, going back to like, is it important, for a husband and wife to, I would say, I'll say absolutely yes. And because of the things that it does in you, right? Of saying, man, well, if I'm going to be there, that I have to have this level of self-control, right? I have to have this order in my life. I've got to have vision, right? We've got to own our calendar. That means that, but then the payoff of being in really good shape is, your sex drive is a lot higher, right? You're going to feel like you're newlyweds, like 12 years in, like I am, 20 years in, 30 years in.
You're bragging, bro. You're bragging.
I
love it.
I'm trying to,
so good.
I'm painting a picture. Right?
I love painting a picture.
You got to sell the destination.
Yeah, for sure.
And
With Jim, one of my favorite guys that is no longer with us, Jim Rohn. I don't know if you ever listened to him. He says, become a millionaire, not for the money, but for who it makes you become. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Head to that destination.
Yes.
You're saying the same thing.
Dude, that's
kind of man you become.
Yes.
To get there is a
What
very good man.
Yes, because it requires the self-control, the expectation, the hey, I'm choosing this instead of this, right? And there's no way to get around that. Like, you have to do. This is where fitness is a little bit different. And for instance, if you're building a business, you're planting a church.
Yep.
Everything could change in one phone call.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard about what you're doing. I'm going to seed some money into this thing.
Yep.
Let me know what to do. But whatever amount of millions of dollars will be in your bank account by the end of the week.
Yeah.
I know that's crazy.
Yeah,
But that happens.
It happens.
It happens, right? There is nothing like that within fitness, right?
No.
So you have to, it is the long suffering of it. It's the time, it's the effort, it's the intensity over a real, really long time. And how that grows you.
Well, it's like Ozempic. It's like, oh, you lose weight 40 pounds in 2 months. Well, you'll gain the same 40 back. It's like Proverbs says, riches gain quickly or lost quickly.
Yes.
It was same with it.
Yes. So it's that kind of thing. I think, you know, I mean, for both of us, right, our desires for, you know, married couples to have a lot of fun. Yeah. Have a lot of sex. Yes. Have a lot of kids. Like, have fun, laugh, right? Have this joy. You know, are the good things running wild, right, in your life, right? And so then we say, well, then what would be in the way of that? You know, and a lack of health is going to be one of the biggest things that will be in the way of that. It's objectively true, right? There's no way to get around it.
Yep.
That's just how it is. And again, you can grieve that and be mad about that. But then again, to do that would be to say, like, I'm going against creation, right? Because there is that created order. Those things are just there. You and I did not decide that, right? But this is just reality. So we can live in that, and we can flourish, and we can thrive, or we can reject it and say that we have a better way of doing things, and suffer the consequences.
Yep.
Right.
100%. I think something guys get, I feel like guys get wrong a lot is they're like, I will die for my family. And they're like almost over romanticize that of like, I would do anything. But they're talking about a moment where they would have to choose something.
Yeah.
But will you live for your family? And I feel like that's what most guys are missing is most of life, and really dying for your family is dying every day to yourself.
Yes.
And it is the normal everyday decisions that is your character as a man. It's who you were as a father. It's who your kids are going to remember.
Yeah.
They're not going to, we're all waiting for this big moment where we can show our character. What character?
Yeah.
So what are the things that, as you're coaching guys, what are the biggest things that you run up against that guys need to break through and, kind of get coached through to unlock this for themselves?
Dude, that's a really good question. I think one of the biggest things I find myself, there are two things I find myself coaching guys through a lot, especially recently. One of them is the way that they view themselves, right? And this goes back to theology, right? This goes back to, man, what have you kind of been grown up in and taught? And it might have been inherently right, but the way it was described to you was off enough, right? So there's a lot of guys, they are just the most self-deprecating kind of guys, right? I'm just a worm. I'm just tolerated the worst. And I am just the worst. And, you know, better than I deserve, right? You know, that kind of whole thing, dude. That kind of whole thing, which again, it sounds really nice. It sounds so humble, dude.
Nobody will ever correct you for saying it.
Nobody, you know, I will. Yeah, it's what I do this. But again, you kind of see how that leads to, oh, well, then I don't really matter, right? My body doesn't matter. My health doesn't really matter. And it becomes this self-defeating cycle, right? And so that's a big one, man. Again, going back to, I mean, those verses we were talking about earlier, you know, I mean, go to Genesis 1, go to 1 Peter 2:9. Like, think about, you know, this life without lack in Psalm 23, or life abundant in John 10:10. Having a new heart, being a new creation, having the Spirit of the living God inside of you, being more than a conqueror, like all of this kind of stuff, man. That's, if you are in Christ, that is said to you right now.
Yeah.
Right. That is your current reality. And what's happening is really sad, because, you know, that identity in Christ, that reality of salvation, the way I would describe it is like, it's like this immovable mountain, right? I can't add to it. I can't take away from it. I can't change. It's just there, and it is reality.
Yep.
Now, my perception of it can be drastically different based on what I believe, how I'm feeling, how healthy I am, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what we're trying to correct. And we're trying to say, hey, brother, you have a lot of worth, right? because you're made in the image of God. He chose you.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to pick your head up, right? You need to stand up a little bit taller. You need to speak with a little bit more authority and confidence because you've been given that, right? You need to stop. What's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was one of my mentors said, Hunter, stop making yourself so small. Right. But I was like, but that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Yeah. That's all I'm supposed to do is just make myself small.
You don't want to think less of yourself. You want to think about yourself less.
Exactly. That is exactly it, right? And you're just saying, hey, I'm at some point, David had to just accept, hey, I've been called to this, and this is the platform I've been given. Not that you're right or David, right?
Yeah.
But there is a lot of application there to say, hey, this is what the Lord's given you. Take it seriously,
Joseph,
yeah, the dude's in prison, accused of rape, and he's all right. I'm gonna run this prison. I'm gonna steward exactly what I have here.
Exactly.
I don't have another option. But he's that kind of man.
He's that kind of man. Exactly. So I think that's a big one, and especially within fitness, within men's movement kind of stuff. It's so just like, if you're not up at 4 a.m. getting in the ice bath, you're a beta cuck loser, and these guys are like, they're drowning. I mean, they are drowning because everything is so out of order. Right. And they're trying. Right.
Yeah.
But I think what they need to be reminded of who they are. And not called out, but called up. Right? Like you said earlier, called up. Hey, I'm going to bring you along, and we're gonna go for something. Yeah, that's a lot better. So I think that's the first one. Now the second one that I've encountered a lot recently is it's funny. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's just men needing to rest. That's one of the first questions I've been asking a lot of guys recently. Do you even take a Sabbath?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or are you just running 24/7, 365 and never stops? Yeah, right. And same thing, man, that comes from a really good place, right? You want to be working hard. You want to be hard charging. I'm making things happen, all this kind of stuff. But you're running yourself ragged.
Yeah.
Because you were not meant to work like that. Work hard for 6 days, dude. And then, and again, even that Sabbath, right, is another act of submission to say, hey, Edward, this is all yours. I'm submitting my cares and my worries to you because you care for me. And I'm offline and I need to just enjoy you, enjoy the life you've given me, rest, take a breath and get back after it. We had one guy that just again, hard charging dude, owns his own business. And just, he's in it, man. He's in the business. He's in his business. I mean, he's running hard. But there was just so much stress and we had him. I was like, dude, you need to go and take a Sabbath, and his heart rate variability shot through the roof. Really? Just after a couple of weeks. So it was just cool to see the literal data show that, hey man, this is really important for you,
Well, your word of submission plus systems equals
stewardship.
It's so true because one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was God designed us not for balance, but for rhythm. And that's 6 days on, 1 day off.
Yep.
But if we're not taking that rhythm, your body's built for rhythm and built for cadence.
Yep.
And in our marriage, we have that where it's all right. We take our Sabbaths, we have a quarterly review, we have a year planning retreat.
Yep.
And those systems keep our marriage really healthy. And those cadences, those rhythms. Yeah. But when we buck God's design, it never works.
Never.
It destroys the man.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Levels are all out of balance. Or we gain weight.
There's a toll, right? There's a toll. It's not just, I feel kind of stressed. Yeah. It's like, well, some deeper things have been going on because there's been that much neglect for that long.
Don't sacrifice things that God didn't ask you to.
No.
And that's what most of these men are doing is I'm sacrificing for my family.
Yeah.
Did God ask you to make that sacrifice?
No. And there's even, there's like a military phrase like protect the asset at all costs, right? And I'll say that to husbands and fathers, like, bro, you are the asset. Like whether you feel like it or not, or you are ready to accept that you're the head of this home, you're the priest of this home, you are the asset, right? If you go, things get really bad, right? And so you have to kind of get into that and just accept that and just say, man, again, this is the place that the Lord has put me in. That matters. There is weight to that.
Yep.
How am I doing the best with that time? Right. And it's definitely not just running myself into the ground because it's some like badge of honor. Right.
It's really good.
So I think that's a big one.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Really good. So we're to get to your most controversial take and we'll finish up the show with that. But before then, where can people find you? How can they get involved with you?
But yeah, just at Instagram at Monolith Movement. And yeah, all my stuff's there. That's kind of my main.
Awesome.
platform.
And you provide coaching for men.
I do. Yes.
And your wife just started coaching women.
Yes.
Very cool. Where can they find her?
It's called Monolith Woman.
All right.
So at Monolith Woman.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
All right. What everyone's been waiting for. What is your most controversial or hot take?
Yeah.
And I always like to see where people take this.
Yes. I mean, it's similar to the, is it a sin? Right.
Yeah.
But the thing I was thinking about is I think if you are a Christian in 2026, knowing what we know, understanding what we understand, if you are not actively trying to get and stay fit, you are a fool. You are a massive fool. And I don't say that as a dig. I say that in this like proverbial sense of, bro, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Again, you're missing out. You're missing out on a lot. The cost is a lot higher than you think it is.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing I always come back to is just, man, what you're missing out on and how good life could be if these things are within order. And so for somebody to say, man, I objectively know that the way I'm living is bad for me. I objectively understand that I am a glutton, that I do lack in self-control. And then to say, functionally, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's insane to me, dude.
It's insane. And we, like when I do talks on finances and debt for young guys, like you're going to make a sacrifice. Are you going to make the sacrifice now? Or are you going to make it later? Are you going to work into your 70s, 80s, 90s and be paycheck to paycheck? Or are you going to make the hard sacrifices now?
Yes.
Health is, detrimental. And you don't make the sacrifices now, you could die at 62 of a heart attack. Like if you're not taking care of yourself now, you may not meet your great grandkids. And that's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Finances and debt is one where you delay the sacrifice and it'll be painful, but it won't kill you.
No.
This one will kill you.
Yes.
And man, if you care about your wife, you care about your kids, you better stay in shape.
Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that, and that's just like to get to level, right? And there's this whole other world. Once you're there, that's the crazy thing is like, once you're there, man, and you have, the analogy I use would be like, man, your excess fat is debt, right? At 100%. A lot of guys they're essentially in $100,000 of debt, right?
Yeah.
So that first phase is just paying that off, right? It's not very fun.
No.
It's not very glamorous. It's a lot of self-control. It's a lot of sacrifice, right? But when you get there and that debt is paid off, and now I'm at a spot where, man, I built some muscle. I'm in a good range on my body fat. Like my blood looks good. My habits are built, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy what can happen from it. So even just looking at that upside of it, no, it's not just paying off your debt. It's also, bro, if you do this right, you can, that house that you rent for vacation, you could own that thing. Like that car that you always wanted, you could actually have that. You could actually build this life.
I love it.
And so just seeing those things, and it's really surreal. I tell people all the time, like we were just eating like fried shrimp, I'll be like, bro, what are you doing? And it's like, I can eat 4,000 calories a day in the scale and I move, right? Dang, that's the kind of stuff. Like, so that's where, again, going back to Chesterton, the good things getting to run wild, right? Where it's like, man, I get to fully live this life without stress because I've paid those dues.
Yep.
And I just can't imagine just not going through it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just make the sacrifice, doing it. Everybody's going to flourish around you because of it. And you have no idea how good life can be, but that is a thing that you can't really overlook.
It's incredible. Well, great word. I think you shared a lot of very helpful things for the guys online. So thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. Go follow Hunter at Monolith Movement, and go follow his wife as well, Monolith Woman. And we'll see you guys soon.